I would like to welcome everyone and welcome, joining me today, our Deputy Mayor for Strategic Policy Initiatives, Richard Bury, our Budget Director, Dean Foulahan, Josh Wallach, our Chief Strategy Officer at DOE, and Sophia Pappas, the Executive Director of the Office of Early Childhood Education at DOE, and most importantly, a former pre-K teacher herself. And I think we're being joined, or have been, yes, Sherry Cleary, excellent, the Executive Director of New York Early Childhood Professional Development Institute at CUNY. Thank you, and a member of our working group. Thank you very much, Sherry. The point we want to make today, to me, is very, very exciting. This is about another crucial building block in our effort to create a plan for full-day pre-K for every child in this city, which, together with our plan for after school for every middle school student, will fundamentally change the nature of our school system. And let me just start with that for a moment. The idea, when I talked about this a bit on Sunday, the idea here is that we have to address the foundational dynamics of our school system. We can't continue on a pattern of making the same mistakes over and over, seeing the same failures over and over. We simply are not reaching enough of our children effectively enough. I talked on Sunday about our inability to get enough of our kids to grade level by third grade, which is the make or break year. I talked about the fact that even among those children who do graduate, the vast majority are not college ready. This is an unacceptable state of affairs. It's unacceptable in human terms for the children and for the families involved. It's unacceptable in terms of the future of this city. I've talked to a lot of leaders in different industries, and in particular the tech sector, which is one of the most important emerging sectors in this city. And there's a broad agreement that we're not on pace to develop the workforce necessary for the 21st century. So New York City has always been strong because we had the talent, because we had the workforce that matched the needs of the time. That's been true for centuries. That is becoming less true with every passing year. And we have to address it. So I say first, as a parent, that the state of affairs is unacceptable. And what I talked about on Sunday is the fact that I do deeply appreciate and understand why so many of my fellow parents are seeking any good option they can find for their child. So the individual cost is unacceptable. But the societal cost is equally unacceptable. We're not on the pace to where we need to be. And we have to make big, bold changes. And that's why it is so important to not just dabble in early childhood education or dabble in after school, but fundamentally provide these services on a wide level, on a broad level that reaches all the kids who need them. That's the only way you can start to fundamentally change the school system. Now, the question has been, if you understand the notion that, or if you accept the notion that we need broad gauge change, the question has been, how do you pull it off? I think the assumption running through the discussion has been, it hasn't happened before, so therefore there must be some good reason why it didn't happen. Well, we argue it's been a strategic reality. Previous administrations didn't focus on early childhood education. Previous administrations actually disinvested in after school rather than investing more in it. And so we lost an opportunity to start to turn the supertanker and make fundamental change. When we looked at this afresh, we not only found that it was possible to reach a lot more people, we found that we had all the tools we needed right here in this city. It was about marshaling those forces. It was about organizing them and recognizing that if we had enough focus here at City Hall and at the DOE, at DYCD, at ACS, at all the agencies involved, that we could make this happen on a grand scale and we could do it quickly. So we've never accepted the notion of limits. We've never felt that it's something we had to do only on a small scale or only reach the few. We felt from the beginning we could reach the many, and the more we got into the details, the more it was confirmed to us. So since we walked in the door about 12 weeks ago, the machinery at literally a dozen city agencies has been moving intensely to make sure that we are ready to offer high-quality, full-day, universal pre-K this September for 53,000 New York City children. This September. Last month, we rolled out our progress report on the availability of classrooms. Reminding you, our goal had been to find 21,000 classrooms. We ended up with proposals for 29,000, a further indication of the availability of much more space than many of the conventional observers had assumed. What we want to talk about now is a crucial piece of the equation, the piece that's the most necessary to educating a child, and that is our teachers. And any parent will tell you what I experienced and Charlene experienced as Chiara and Dante were growing up. There are excellent teachers who make a profound difference in the lives of the children that they teach. Every one of us, every parent can tell you about a certain teacher at a certain grade level who fundamentally improved the learning of that child and the growth of that child. Every one of us has experienced it, and our goal is to make that the common reality for the children of this city at each and every grade level. The report we're releasing today projects the needs for the teaching corps that will make full-day universal pre-K a reality. Remembering that we start with the goal of the 53,000 seats for this September, expanding the following school year up to 73,000. That is where we are going. And based on our research, we know we need 1,000 lead teachers for the first level to get us to 53,000, 1,000 more lead teachers for the second year to get us to 73,000. Now, we are going to help both our school system and our community-based organizations find and recruit and train and retain the best trained, most talented teachers available. I talked on Sunday about the fact that it is our job in terms of fixing our schools writ large to attract the best talent and to retain the best talent. That is going to be central to our vision of pre-K as well. All pre-K teachers need a substantial level of educational achievement. We're going to make sure that we help them to continue to deepen their training and their education as part of our process. On an average year, we receive at the DOE more than 2,000 applications from early education certified teachers. So just in any given year, over 2,000 applications come in from teachers who already have early childhood certification. The application process has been open for only 1 month so far this year. Generally, most of the applications come in closer to the end of the school year as teachers are preparing for the following year. But just after 1 month, we have seen a 55% increase in the number of early childhood education certified teachers applying to the DOE compared to this time last year. So there's already in any given year an ample supply of teachers who come forward, but because of the focus on pre-K, we've seen a 55% increase in those applications already. And we know that there's a lot more that will come in as we move forward. We're going to use every element of the city government to build this plan and to bring in the best talent for it. And we also understand that in the process, we're going to create a lot of opportunity for New Yorkers who want to work in this field, who want to improve their skills, who want to make a long-term career of it. So we're going to help people who are graduating from our public universities and people who work already at neighborhood-based organizations to get the training and certification they need to further their careers in early childhood education. Again, picking up from what I talked about Sunday, the best thing for this city would be to have an ever-improving teacher corps of truly highest quality, best trained individuals, constantly learning, constantly growing, who stay in the teaching profession for their entire career. That is the goal. And we want to create that dynamic in the pre-K effort as well. We want talented people to come in and know that they can remain in this profession for the rest of their career, helping us to build our early childhood education efforts. Today, among the other pieces that we want to talk about, we are announcing a really historic partnership with the City University of New York and its Early Childhood Professional Development Institute. This is an extraordinary institution that takes the best homegrown talent and helps New Yorkers move into the field of early childhood education with strong background, strong training. We're going to devote, from our pre-K effort, $6.7 million to build this partnership to ensure that we have a constant supply of talented teachers ready to help our kids. And we're creating 2 tracks to develop and deepen our early childhood education workforce. One for recent college graduates that provides intensive summer training, fieldwork, and mentoring to help them get their certification by September 2015. That'll be for the following year, and helps them learn in pre-K classrooms starting this fall. So while we're building the framework for this September, we're already getting to work building out the much bigger framework for the following September. The second track is for people currently in our early education system, especially in our community-based organizations, to make sure they get the certification they need to become a lead teacher. They'll get an advisor, they'll get counseling, they'll get tuition help and stipends to make sure that they can complete their studies and move up. We want everyday New Yorkers who are devoted to our children to have an opportunity to grow professionally, to help us achieve this plan, to get to the kind of job that also will be good for providing for a family. And this is going to create a strong career option, a career pipeline in all 5 boroughs because it's neighborhood-based. And we're going to then go further to deepen that pool of talented teachers who are going to be part of this effort. By casting our wide net, we're going to use the teachnycprek.org website. Again, it's teachnycprek.org. This website will be part of a talent search, not just in New York City, not just in the tri-state area, but nationwide, to bring the best and the brightest pre-K teachers here to build this historic effort. There'll be subway ads recruiting teachers this spring, and there'll be additional partnerships with other universities as we move forward. Between all of these elements, we estimate, based on prior year history, that we'll have a pool of qualified and interested applicants, as many as 7,000 to choose from as we build out this system. And because our central focus is on making this the highest quality possible pre-K effort, we're going to be putting in place coaches who will continue to work with each of our teachers. We'll be reducing the ratio of classrooms for each coach and mentor, so there'll be much more personal attention and support. And we'll be ensuring ongoing professional enrichment to keep teachers growing and becoming better all the time on the job. We are putting each and every piece of our plan in place now so that we're ready when the funding is approved in Albany. As we've made clear, the classroom space is there, it's ready, the teachers are ready. New York City is ready to make history. And we're very proud of all the people who've been involved in this effort who are going to make sure we have the best talent available to serve our children. A moment en español. Estamos aquí para hablar sobre la parte más importante de nuestro plan de ofrecer pre-kinder gratis a tiempo completo para todos los niños de 4 años, los maestros. Hoy estamos anunciando un acuerdo histórico de $6.7 millones con la Universidad Municipal CUNY para adiestrar a más neoyorquinos a educar a niños de pre-kinder. Con esto tenemos el espacio para los salones de clase. Tenemos los maestros necesarios. Estamos listos para hacer historia. With that, I want to turn to our Deputy Mayor, Richard Bury, who is spearheading our entire pre-K and after-school task force. He's doing an extraordinary job bringing all of the city agencies together to achieve this historic goal. I often talk to my colleagues about the fact that we have to think in terms of other great efforts in history where government served at its finest, where amazing things were achieved. I talk about the Marshall Plan, I talk about the D-Day invasion. So given that we are planning to do something great and historic, I have now likened Richard Bury to being our General Eisenhower and being someone who's going to bring all the strands together to make this historic effort work. General, please step forward. Address your troops.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for being the first person to recognize my natural physical resemblance to General Eisenhower. I appreciate it. I assume that's why you came up with that analogy. That's right. Yes, that's right. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, everyone. I want to take just a moment to update you on just some of the work now underway across over a dozen city agencies to turn these plans into reality. Last week, we expanded our UPK implementation working group to include not just the frontline agencies that run the programs, the Department of Education and the Administration for Children's Services, but the full network of city agencies that certify, monitor, and assist with UPK programs. This includes everything from the Fire Department and the Department of Health, which, among other things, issue the permits required to operate a UPK facility, to the Department of Investigation, which monitors providers to make sure taxpayer dollars are being spent wisely. Includes the Economic Development Corporation, which is actively looking at its project pipeline to see which spaces could potentially be developed for pre-K classrooms in the future. From issuing the RFPs to reaching out to parents to letting them know that new options are on the way, we are on schedule and on target. The bipartisan consensus we have in Albany on fully funding these programs is historic, and we are going to be ready the day that funding is greenlit to help principals and providers lock in the space, hire their faculty, and work with parents to find the right program for their child. When we do this job right, it will mean that tens of thousands of parents will have a high-quality, full-day pre-kindergarten program for their child in their neighborhood. This is history, and we are ready for it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll give you back your remarks. I just again want to thank all my colleagues because they've put in a really extraordinary effort, and I think what Richard has done leading this task force, a whole range of agencies that I can tell from my dealings with the task force are absolutely in common cause on this. Understand the timeline, understand the need. It's a great indication of government at its best, so I want to thank you for your leadership. With that, let's take questions on topic first.
Mayor, on the one hand, you indicate that you already have thousands of applicants to be these pre-K teachers, but on the other hand, you talked about a recruiting effort and ads on subways. Does that send a mixed message that you're both ready and don't have enough? No, and
what we're saying is, first of all, the response already is extraordinary. We want to make sure there's a very strong base of talent available. We obviously want to make sure we get the most talented, the most effective teachers in place. And it's a 2-year process, remember. We want people for part of the first expansion for this September, then there's a second very big expansion going into the next school year. So no, it's quite consistent. The fact is there's a lot of interest, there's a lot of energy. We want to keep building that interest and energy, and we want to make sure we get the very best for our kids. John.
Just on pre-K funding, last week or so, Governor Cuomo indicated that he was not in favor of a specific amount of money allotted to a city, like the state senate has suggested, but rather that it would be funded in terms of need. Is this here part of your effort to demonstrate that need? What other steps would you do to show exactly what you needed? Is this an effort to win more money from the government?
Well, I think we've demonstrated the need in terms of the vast amount of interest among parents and families to get full-day pre-K for their children. We've been seeing that already in the sign-up process for pre-K. I think we've demonstrated the need in terms of the impact early childhood education makes on a child's education, and obviously the tremendously deep need in terms of the current state of our schools, which is the #1 indication that we are not succeeding, and we have to succeed for the good of the city, for the good of the state. New York City schools have to succeed. So I think it's well established that there's a tremendous need to fix our schools, that early childhood education is one of the foundational things we can do, that there's a demand among parents. What we're trying to make clear here is that the methodologies are moving forward aggressively and that they will be in place so we can achieve this September.
In what ways is the city working with the U of T to retain and attract teachers? This is a priority of theirs as well, and obviously they said that this is a concern and why they might need higher wages, better working conditions.
Well, I'm going to talk about that a little bit broadly, and then Josh or Sophia might want to speak to the specifics in terms of this immediate recruitment. I think the point I was making Sunday that we really, as a society, need to talk about teacher retention, because it is one of the issues we don't talk about that is arguably one of the most essential to whether we're going to succeed or fail. We have seen increasingly in New York City talented young teachers start to teach and then leave after just a few years. And that is undermining our school system. We have to create an environment where this becomes a lifelong career. And yes, of course, pay level is always a part of that equation, but I think there's other things that matter quite a bit. When you talk about working conditions, I think about morale. I think about the issue of whether the school system is moving forward and whether the teachers feel they're part of an organization that's growing and improving. I think people are, by the way, talent is attracted to talent. Every great teacher we retain helps us to bring in the next and keep the next. So there's a lot of pieces to the equation. But I have to tell you, the early childhood piece is particularly important. I've talked to a lot of teachers about this. Ask teachers what it means to them professionally, and they will tell you they understand if more and more children get full-day pre-K, they will then go into the grades above more prepared, which means teachers will be more effective at teaching them. The vast majority of teachers I've known quite a few, it's a craft. They care deeply about their craft. They want to succeed. It's frustrating to them whenever they can't succeed or when their school's not succeeding. So the notion that something foundational is going to happen that will actually allow them to do their jobs better, that's one of the things that keeps people on the job. I think every one of us can relate to that. When you feel you're surrounded by talented people, when you feel you're part of an organization that's moving forward, when you feel you can do your job, you want to keep doing your job. You want to stay at that organization and stay in that field. That's what we have to create here. So a lot of times we've interpreted the pre-K effort through the prism of the individual children and families, and that's obviously the most important prism. But I think there's another point that has to be looked at, what it will do to uplift the entire school system. If we can see over the course of just a few years that more and more kids are on grade level by that crucial third grade make or break point, that's going to lift all boats. That's going to have an impact system-wide. And it's certainly going to affect our ability to retain the best talent. So that's what we're trying to achieve. Do you want to talk to the specifics?
Sure.
Go ahead.
I would just point out that currently we have a really strong infrastructure in New York City for pre-K that's a mix between sites that are in public schools and sites that are in community-based organizations. It's about 60% community-based organizations, 40% public schools. Obviously, the public school teachers are part of the UFT, but the teachers in the community-based organizations are not. And I think our goal is to build a comprehensive system, a unified system that respects and honors the professionals doing this work and that invests in the systems that we need to retain all of them and help them advance over time. So we're taking a holistic view of this and looking across the system and trying to retain the very best.
One other point related, again, I spoke about this Sunday, but it's crucial. Some of you were with me at St. Francis Assisi School in the Bronx with Cardinal Dolan. This is an effort that also includes our religious schools, and they are the Diocese of Brooklyn and Queens, the Archdiocese of Manhattan are crucial pieces of this equation. They have capacity, they want to serve a lot of children in need. So this is really about reaching across the whole spectrum, the traditional public schools, the community-based organizations, the religious schools. This is really a very broad mobilization to reach our children. I would just say one more point and then take some more questions on this. Think about it this way. This is about securing our future. Every day we don't get this done, we're falling behind. I really feel that. If you have to do something, again, using the General Eisenhower analogy, if you have to do something that's really about our future economic security, if you have to do something that's about mobilizing our society around a goal that we have to achieve, then everyone is welcomed into that process. That's the vision we have here. Doesn't matter what type of organization, if you can be part of the solution, you're welcome at this table. Grace.
On a question about salaries, so my understanding is that right now there is some preschool programming that's under ACS and some that's under the public school system, and there are different salaries for those teachers. Can you explain sort of how that works, if there will be sort of various tiers of salaries? And then also, is the city's recruitment effort also going to be including recruiting teachers for community-based organizations, or are all the teachers that you're recruiting just for the ones that are going to be in public schools?
So let me make the broad point about how we look at the talent pool, and then any combination of you can speak to some of the specifics of Grace's question. We've said from the beginning this is about quality. We're not just trying to do universal pre-K, which is a name that's been out there for a long time, but a reality that has not existed. we're not just trying to do full-day universal pre-K, we're trying to do high-quality full-day universal pre-K, which means it's about getting the very best teachers. Now, you're exactly right, there's different structures here, because the DOE has certain differences from the community-based organizations, and those realities will continue. But what we are trying to do in each and every case is focus on quality, talented teachers, experienced teachers, trained teachers, and obviously make sure that we have the resources to give them the kind of pay that will encourage their presence in these programs. Let me start with that, and who wants to jump in?
Well, I'll be brief and then leave the actual experts to give correct information. One thing I do want to say, the mayor just said, is that part of what we're doing here is enhancing the resources available to all programs, including community-based organizations, so that they are better able to attract and retain and support teachers more effectively, so they can recruit more qualified staff. So that's part of what's going on. And so we're confident that community-based organizations will be in a stronger place to recruit the kind of talent that they need to deliver excellent services to children. You asked also about the teacher recruitment and who is that for. It's for everyone. One of the things that the Department of Education has piloted last year that either Sophia or Josh can talk more about is actually opening the pool of teachers that the Department of Education is recruiting and allowing community-based organizations to go into that pool and to hire from that pool. So all the recruitment efforts will inure not only to the benefit of the Department of Education schools, but to community-based organizations that are running pre-K as well. And the last thing I want to say, which I think is also very important here, is that in many cases, a lot of the teachers who are working in community-based organizations, in many cases, these are community members, they're often former parents, maybe they came up in many cases as volunteers. Josh and I worked together at the Children's Aid Society where we ran a large early childhood program. And one of the amazing things about this work is it really provides a pipeline for these community members to get credentials, to get master's degree, to get certified, and to advance in their careers. So this is, when the mayor talks about this being one city, I mean, it's part of the powerful part of this initiative too. It's not only the direct and incredible services being offered to children and families, it's also this amazing workforce development opportunity being offered to community members who now can become stable professionals, advance in their careers. So it's really an exciting project all around.
Is there going to be sort of the danger of a two-tier system? I mean, if the public schools are offering higher salaries by, I think, about $10,000 a year compared to community-based organizations on average, are you going to have a situation where sort of second-tier teachers are going to end up at community-based organizations just because of the salary differences?
I'm going to, again, let Josh and Sophia jump in. I would characterize it very differently. I think we are committed to quality across the board. That's part of the concept of everything we're doing here. We want all of these programs to be high quality. I think if you think about some of the items we talked about in the first part of this press conference, there's a constant training effort, coaching, retraining. There's a lot of pieces in place here to keep building the quality levels on all pieces of this equation. You guys want to jump in? All right, you get the step. All right.
Okay. So in terms of the CBO recruitment, I really encourage you to go to teachnycprek.org. It was developed at the Department of Ed between me and the same office that handles teacher recruitment for K-12. And the whole point of it is to create one place where teachers who are interested in CBOs, public schools, or both can go to express interest, but also tell us more about themselves and the backgrounds that they're bringing to the table. Before that, even though we had a way for CBOs to access a candidate pool if the candidates wanted to, we didn't have a way to reach out to people and say, we are focused on pre-K, we want the best and the brightest. And we also have to look at this as a continuum of development. So we are focused on bringing really strong people in, but we also have resources devoted to making sure they have enough planning time, that they have professional development over the summer and throughout the school year to get better and better. We also want to focus on what a teacher candidate might see in a CBO versus a public school. Sometimes they might not know what's being offered at a CBO that may be attractive to them, like the fact that there are comprehensive services that might be available to families and communities. I've often heard CBO teachers say that that's one of the big reasons they choose to work in a CBO. So we're looking at all of those things together, and as we talked about before, figuring out all different ways to attract and retain the best teachers across the system.
So would there be different requirements then for the different positions, or do you still have basic requirements for this job?
So we're committed to having a top-notch teacher for every pre-K classroom. Our goal is to have a certified teacher in every room, CBO and public school eventually. In terms of the specific requirements, we're following state regulations, which basically mean that ultimately, if you're a pre-K teacher, you need to have a certification in early childhood ed. When you walk into the door in both of those places, you have a bachelor's degree. For the public schools, you have to walk in with your initial certification. For the CBOs, in addition to the bachelor's degree, you have to be actively working on a study plan towards certification, and somebody on site must have the early childhood ed certification. So it could be someone observing and coaching the teachers. So we're working within those parameters, but doing everything we can within the DOE, with CUNY, and with others to move everyone towards that certification.
And I just want to, please, I want to preface my calling on Henry by saying that Charlene and I were in the audience, and we watched as we assumed that that was you pretending to play a harmonica while there was a music track over it. And then in the middle of it, Charlene turned to me and said, no, he's actually playing a harmonica. And I just want to tip my proverbial cap to you for exceptional musical capacity. Please.
I'm ready to, form a band.
It's a great way of life.
My question is, as you try to enhance pre-K, there are undoubtedly going to be some programs that don't measure up, that exist now. And I want to know how you're going to identify them, and are you going to cut them out, or are you going to try to bring them up? How are you going to handle the programs that are not up to snuff?
Let me offer the broad principles, and then whoever wants to step forward to answer in specific. I appreciate the question because it gets to the ethic that we're bringing to this. This is mission critical. It's literally mission critical for the good of our schools. And again, I'm expanding off the points I made Sunday. We will never change that unacceptable reality if we don't move on all the fronts that I talked about. So we're going to move on early childhood education. We're going to move on extending the school day through after school, on involving parents much more strategically and productively in their children's education, on teacher retention. All of these pieces have to happen in the course of these 4 years, with other pieces like the community schools, which is another area that Richard's going to provide leadership on, where we build a model where physical and mental health services are available in schools. There's a whole host of things we're going to do to change the nature of New York City education. And this piece is mission critical. The early childhood education piece is the table setter here. We get this piece right, and a lot of other pieces can move effectively. So it's not acceptable for us to have a program that's not working, because it undermines the whole strategy. The question is, certainly when it comes to the talent, we're going to recruit the best, but also constantly work to upgrade and train and improve the talent. That's the ethic running through that. But to the question about a specific program that's having trouble, who would like to step forward? Who's up?
I can take a first stab.
All right.
So there's two pieces to this. First of all, I think is the process that we go through to review the applications for the new sites that are coming online. And Sophia and the team at DOE really undertake a comprehensive review, looking at the application, going on site visits to actually look at the site and talk with the directors and the staff, as we talked about before, examining everything from facilities to operations to curriculum, and essentially accepting only the ones that meet our very high quality standards. And then once we have programs online, there's a whole set of things that we're doing to ensure quality, both beefing up, on one hand, the staff that we need to inspect and ensure that all these facilities are meeting all the codes and regulations they need to, but also adding to instructional coaches and other supports to give the teachers and directors the support they need to continuously improve the programs and make them excellent. So there's a whole set of systems and supports that we're beefing up as we ramp up to universal pre-kindergarten in New York City to ensure quality and excellence. Do you want to add?
Wait. Maybe you're roadie here. There we go.
I didn't need a step when I taught pre-K.
There you go.
In terms of the ongoing accountability, it is first and foremost for my team. I think what's important to know is we're building on an infrastructure that is in place and making it even better. So in recent years, we have really focused more intensely on looking at the quality of the learning environment, the quality of child-teacher interactions, and using information from those observations to make decisions about what happens to a program. So in a lot of cases, programs need more targeted support. They need us to be very specific about these are the areas where you're strong, here's where you need to improve, and here's how we're going to partner with you to get even better. In other cases, once we've looked at all the information and we've tried to improve a program, if they're not meeting our expectations still, we will use the accountability levers we have to either not renew them, so they have to apply again, or to terminate those programs. And we have not been able to do that to the fullest extent because we didn't have necessary resources. We have expertise, we have an intent, but hopefully we'll have resources so that we can have more coaches with a more manageable caseload, so we can have an entire quality assurance team that's really devoted to collecting comprehensive information about programs and making really smart decisions that are in the best interests of kids. And lastly, I will just say that my teams that are out reviewing sites and proposals, the first thing we said was we are not compromising quality. We are educators, and if you're not comfortable with a child and a family being in this program in September, we will not accept them, and that's the bottom line.
Let's do one more round and move to others.
On topic.
Mr. Mayor, obviously a lot of thought and preparation has gone into this program, to hiring the teachers, to getting the classroom space, and you are ready. But it always comes back to, we are ready when the funding is there. Mm-hmm. So the budget in Albany is due next week. Where are we? Is the funding going to be there?
Look, we're confident that this is going to end well. I said on Sunday, I honor the fact that Governor Cuomo has made very clear that he's focused on pre-K. The actions of the Assembly and the Senate were powerful. And, in all of the sort of narrative arc of this last few months, really the most essential actions were the Assembly and the Senate in different ways affirming the same exact goal, to fully fund this program. And that was a moment of bipartisan progress that was very striking to me. So we're confident of a good outcome in Albany, and we're continuing every day to build. There's the sense here in this building, and certainly in the agencies involved, that we are right now working every hour of every day to get this ready for opening day in September. And that's the attitude we take. So I think things are going to end well in Albany, and we look forward to it. Okay, other topics? Yes.
Is New York City seeking that these potential recruits be bilingual?
Oh, same topic. Okay, exciting. Yeah, so bilingual, fire away.
You'll notice on the Teach NYC pre-K website that when we ask candidates about teaching pre-K, we actually specify languages that we're encouraging to see in our recruits, and that's based on the languages that are commonly spoken in many of our programs. So it is definitely a priority to look for candidates who have those skills. We are looking for a pool of people that have a diverse range of strengths, and certainly that's one of the things that we want to make sure is one of our priorities. But we also are really ramping up our ability for our teachers to meet the needs of children who speak other languages. So whether they already speak another language or they're working with us to develop the child's oral language skills and work with families, we are really focusing on students who come from diverse backgrounds.
So just adding to that, I think, one of the issues that we work on every day in our school system is serving our English language learners. And this is an area I care about a lot, and I've said we have to continue to improve. The fact is that this age group, 4 years older, in some cases, 3 years and 9 months, 10 months, whatever it may be, that comes into pre-K, they're at a perfect moment for language learning. So as we've developed this curriculum, we've been very mindful of that. There's going to be elements of the dual language mentality and strategy embedded in this curriculum, so we can maximize the fact that we're providing a service in a whole new way at a perfect point in life for a child to learn, if they are not yet proficient in English, to learn English while being educated more broadly. Sally.
Maybe your budget director could jump in on this. The State Control Board today put out an analysis of your budget, and they're calling the taxi medallion revenue a risk because you haven't presented the disabled plan yet to Governor Cuomo. And that has to be cleared before you could do the medallion sale and get that money for this year's budget. I was just wondering if there's an update on that plan and if you still think that you're going to get that.
First, I want to thank you because up until now, Dean Fullahan had been the silent Bob of this press conference. So I'm glad to see that he has a chance to speak. Would you like to jump in?
As you know, we identify often many risks, and there are at various points in any continuum, any process, where we have to achieve certain goals. That's one we're certainly recognize, and we believe that we'll be able to address that risk.
Can you just tell us where the plan stands? Has it been submitted yet?
Why don't we get back to you with the exact timeline and the details on that? Okay.
Do you have any feelings about the bill that the council is proposing to charge people 10 cents a bag for plastic or paper bags when they go to the supermarket without their own bag? And if you could you talk about how much the city could save if you could keep that plastic out of the landfill?
I don't want to pretend to have facts and figures at my command I don't have. We'll certainly be able to get you information on that from our new sanitation commissioner, Catherine Garcia. But I can tell you the broad principle. I have not seen the legislation either, let me hasten to add, so I don't want to speak about the specifics. I can tell you the broad principle. The plastic bags are a problem, and our goal has to be to reduce the use of plastic bags. There's a lot of different ways to do that. Certainly looking forward to seeing this legislation, but I can tell you as a societal goal, it's something we have to work on, and we have to work on quickly.
You, maybe the budget director can also weigh in on this, on exactly what happened with the homeless vouchers from Albany. Did you guys drag your feet and not ask for the money soon enough? And then also, I'm curious why you didn't mention that, if that was a priority, why you didn't mention that in your budget presentation.
We've talked about that priority several times in the last months publicly, but more importantly, there's been a lot of communication with Albany about it. I think there's also been some miscommunication, and we want to resolve it. This budget process, and I think Dean's one of the world's leading experts on it, it's very intense. There's a lot of moving parts. It's not shocking that some pieces might have gotten misunderstood or miscommunicated. Our job is to fix it and fix it quickly. We think there's a lot of shared ground on this one. It is not a minor fact in this equation that when I first worked with Governor Cuomo in 1995, the issue we were both working on was homelessness. And he has an extraordinary record of achievement in addressing homelessness, and I think he understands the depth of the crisis we're facing and the need for new solutions. So we're going to make sure that we communicate well today and the days following, and we're hopeful that we can get to a good place.
What specifically was the miscommunication? And then just
I don't want to get into what was over months and months of dialogue, where a miscommunication may have occurred. I'm simply saying if there has been miscommunication, we're going to fix it. Anything else to add? Or? No? Okay. Yes.
Mayor, the Daily News had a story today about unclaimed money that you have.
Yes, I'm excited about that story. This is the best news story I've seen in a long time.
Are you going to claim it? And
You know I will.
why is there a private mailbox a few houses away from your home, and why is there a cell phone bill or unclaimed money from a cell phone provider?
I don't know about the cell phone part. The mailbox is something that Charlene set up a long time ago because a lot of times when she was working or otherwise away from the house, couldn't get deliveries because no one was home. So the mailbox is right there in the neighborhood at a UPS store.
There was a report this week that the revenue of the fines will actually raise under the next year budget with $8.5 million. how does that balance with the plan of the city council to actually reduce fines by 15, 25%?
I haven't seen that report. What I said the other day about this topic is, what you will measure is our executive budget presentation in the coming weeks, which is where we're going to talk about our vision for each agency and how it's going to handle its revenue issues and its enforcement issues. For the last few years, I think I've made abundantly clear that I do not accept the approach taken by the previous administration on enforcement of small business. I think it was arbitrary. I think it was more revenue-focused than fairness-focused. There was not enough effort to educate small businesses. We're in the process of changing that. So you'll be seeing different announcements from our agencies in the coming weeks and months, but you'll also see some of these things reflected in the executive budget. Again, you'll see it in the executive budget. I'm not going to go further. I'll say whatever the beginning of the changes we're making will be reflected in the executive budget.
Mr. Mayor, Eva Moskowitz just said that she welcomed your call for common ground in dealing with charter schools and other public schools. But she said she's going to continue her lawsuit and does not set up any meetings. Do you plan to have any meetings with Eva Moskowitz? And also, have you come up with some new ideas for the co-location specifically for Harlem Success Academy?
I've said repeatedly we're going to accommodate that school. Could not have been more clear about it. Our school's chancellor, Carmen Farina, could not have been more clear about it. It's March 25th, and there is time to find a strong, suitable location for that school where that whole group of 194 can be together. We're very committed to that. And as soon as we have those details, we will make them public. We've had constant outreach to people who represent that organization to let them know that we're working on getting the facts together for them. So I feel good that we'll get to a good place there.
Are you having meetings at lower levels now? Do you plan to have any higher level meetings with yourself, perhaps?
Again, I think a lot of times the question comes back to individuals and personalities, and that's not what I'm focused on here. I'm focused on let's fix the problem. We did not mean to leave the misimpression that we were not going to serve these 194 kids. We care about these 194 kids and their families. We're going to make sure they have a good school home, and we're going to get that done. And there's going to be a lot of dialogue with a lot of people in the charter movement to find ways to work together. We will maintain the standards I've talked about over the last years, standards of fairness and equity in terms of the traditional public schools and the charter schools. We're going to find a way to do co-locations in a different and more fair manner, but we're certainly going to work with the charter schools.
Last question, guys.
Yeah. Michael.
There was a second security breach widely reported at the World Trade Center involving a pair of skydivers. I was wondering if you've had any conversations with Commissioner Bratton about this, or if your team has been in touch with the Port Authority about some of these issues.
Well, I know that both City Hall and One Police Plaza are concerned about this situation, and we are going to deepen our coordination with the Port Authority Police to address it. It's obviously not an acceptable state of affairs, but we think it's one that together we can resolve. Thanks, everyone.